Hello everybody, welcome to another viewer requested video. Shout out to you all that are leaving comments in either Discord or in the comment section. I will talk about your topic, whether you want to or not. Leave them below and I'll get to them. With that being said, this topic is about dealing with coworkers that are throwing you under the bus. This can include envious coworkers or even just coworker competition. This is something that all of us as working professionals have to deal with at some point or another. But how do we work on this professionally, but also spiritually? And before I get into it, we'll first kick off the table. You're not going to quit your job, you're not going to snitch on them, and you can't just simply forgive and forget. So what do? Let's take a step back and recognize that none of this really matters. We can live our lives however we want, we'll experience consequences, and we'll seek benefit through feelings. Now with that being said, what is the optimal way that we can live our lives so that ourselves and others can have an enjoyable experience? Now, I'm not saying that you have to be the bigger person in this situation or the next, but let's take into account others' perspectives. Doing so may not change your route of thinking or behaving, but it'll enrich your understanding and ideally your compassion for others as well as yourself. That's enough of a high-level overview. So now let's get into what needs to be said. Without getting into the exact examples that the viewers requested or at least shared with me, I'll say that if you reached out about this, then obviously you're bothered by it. And if you're bothered by it, are you going to just dwell on those feelings and be passive and do nothing about it? Or is action worthwhile? Of course, action is worthwhile. So how do we stand up for ourselves, but also bear the weight of the consequences that come with doing just that? First, if you want to be treated a certain way, live the way that you want to be treated. It's like the golden rule, but molded into a way that's applicable for you. Saying that if you have problems, verbalizing your problems to your coworkers only gives them ammunition to throw back at you. Be mindful of how you're presenting yourself, how you're carrying yourself, and how you're behaving in front of others, because they will take this into account either consciously or subconsciously. While we now cannot change the first impression that has a lasting impact, we can handle the way that we take in the situation and grow from it. People respect growth. People respect self-improvement, no matter what the situation is and who's affected in the beginning. As long as you can take it in and catalyze yourself into a better version of yourself as an employee, as an individual, as a coworker, etc., then you're better off, whether these people are still hating or not. Furthermore, let's recognize that we're always moving on to something bigger and better. Everything that we're experiencing right now in the present is here to catapult us to where we need to be and where we want to be. By learning from these experiences, we are equipping ourselves with all the lessons learned, all the pitfalls to avoid, and all the characteristics that we wish to embody into our behavior, so that come the next experience, whether we move on from this job and get another, we're going to be better versions of ourselves. And thus we can look back and simply be grateful for having learned the lessons now. And yes, they're annoying and painful to go through, but it is what it is. And so with that being said, let me reiterate by saying that you don't owe anybody anything. Seriously, we can live our lives how we want to live our lives. And we don't always want to be selfish and do things solely for our own benefit, but we can also help others in ways that are helping us. But let's assume we want to stay at our job, stay working with the same people, for whatever reason. So here's what we do if somebody's disrespecting you, or treating you unlike how you deserve to be treated. Number 1, get out of people's way, and assume that they'll get out of yours. By doing so, you can physically try to ignore them, or if they are still combative in whatever way, then you may have to stoop to their level, but you do not need to do so emotionally. You must remain emotionally detached, to the point where you're not berating them with insults, but you're simply defending your case, standing up for yourself, and moving on. If you don't care about the direct treatment that your coworker has for you, but you care about the indirect effects about how your now boss looks down at you, well, let's improve that by letting our actions speak louder than those words. Mold your behavior with the boss so that you're confident, you're comfortable in your actions, you know that your character as an employee is going to stand up to the truth of the matter, whether the employee throws you under the bus now or not. Overall, I tend to recommend to be apologetic and to learn from the mistakes, even if it wasn't necessarily always your fault. Explaining every single detail that led up to the results is oftentimes going to backfire. It's not worth your energy. Simply move on and show to others that you're going to improve upon this, whether it was directly your fault or not. Now, a key part that is often forgotten, if you choose to go down this route, is to recognize that we cannot be ruminating on all of this outside of work. We have to be blowing off the steam. We have to be detaching ourselves, and whatever stress relieving activity does just that. By taking a step back from all the work nonsense and drama and what have you, we're able to go back into our work with a clear, level-headed mind that is willing to take blame if you need to, just so everything can move on and get back on track. So lastly, I'll conclude by saying, as a summary, we must recognize that none of this really matters at the end of the day. We can just detach, go work out hard at the gym, and see how you feel. Do you still want to fight your coworkers or be angry and upset or match their level energy-wise? Oftentimes you probably won't, and that means that you probably shouldn't. So instead, let's learn and grow from this. Let our actions speak louder than the words thrown your way by the coworkers and perhaps complained up to the boss. Mold your relationships with those in power so they don't care about the rattling that your coworker has to say about you. Instead, they know who you are, and they'll let the rattling say more about that person's character than your own. Stand up for yourself, but be aware of the consequences, and enjoy your experience in the job. Thank you, thank you, thank you.